Hey, good morning. Time for the hands-free drive to work, because you know it's unsafe to touch your phone while you drive, so you can keep your hands on the wheel and at the same time learn to steer yourself through the weeds of work. So let's do that together. We know we'll never act differently until we decide differently, and we'll never decide differently until we learn how to think differently. So that's what we've been really trying to key in on together first, and we're going to get to deciding differently. I can't wait to share that with you, and acting differently. But right now we're still talking about the way we think, and this is a tough concept this morning, and it's just simply I call it the confrontation. And nobody wants to have a confrontation. This is not Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is not a tool that you use on others. This is first and foremost a tool that we use on ourselves. And so I'm not confronting you this morning. I'm just giving you a tool that as you lead yourself through the weeds of work, a way to confront yourself. And you may even hear it already, but I made sure we recorded this video on a day when it's raining. So hopefully this rain will actually soothe you so that maybe you can hear and understand the confrontation a little bit more smoothly. But I've been noticing this for 3 years as I drove into my work. I noticed they've been building a bridge, and I go across that bridge every day, and they've been building a replacement right beside it. And the first thing they did when they started to build that bridge is on one side there was a hill, and on one side there was a hole. And I watched as they took down the hill and they filled up the hole. And they wanted to make sure that there was level ground so that from now on I can get to from where my house is to where my work actually takes place. And really in our work, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a bridge between a neighbor's need and them. If we're trying to build a bridge between the clients or customers that we serve and the neighborhoods that we serve, build a bridge between where they are currently and the need that we want to meet. And so that's what we're trying to do with our work. And so I think we can learn from thinking through this bridge and how to have a confrontation with ourselves. The first confrontation, which is tough, that we have to have with ourselves is just this: we're not that great. Like, again, remember, I'm helping you use this on yourself. I'm talking to me. I'm not that great. When I started thinking through this, I had to come to grips with where I currently was in my career and where I wanted to be. And so when we start to do that, it's not to say that we're worse off than we are. It's not to say that we're better than we are. We just want to make sure that we understand exactly where we are and the skills that we have acquired to be able to do the job that we want to do. So in that first idea, I'm not as great as I once thought maybe. That confrontation is important. And I started to think about how intellect is the thing that really drives you. If you feel, a lot of us feel really smart. And so if intellect is that thing where I'm thinking, yeah, that's where I'm above the rest, is intellect. Think about this. Harvard researchers recently, they took a hydrogen molecule and put enough pressure on that molecule to make it turn to metal. I wouldn't even know how to start doing that. And some people are like, no, intellect's not my thing. I don't think that I'm up here when it comes to smarts, but maybe I'm popular. I really have a lot of influence on other people. I started thinking about that as well with myself. And if I put out a tweet or a, Facebook post and maybe 200 people like it, I feel like I'm shutting down the internet. But at the same time, you have people like Ellen DeGeneres, or, at one time she had the most popular tweet in the world, and it was millions of people who engaged with this tweet, and other people have eclipsed that now, but just millions of people that are wildly popular. People all over the world know their name. So really, when it comes down to it, whether it's intellect or popularity, we could go through another few things, but we're not as great as we once thought maybe, and that's okay. It's not bad. We just need to be aware to be able to see that there are a lot of people with certain talents that maybe we don't have those talents. Listen, I know that this is tough to hear, but you can't be anything that you want to be. You just can't. And so a lot of people would say, well, you just said that, we're not that great, but then you talked about Ellen and you talked about these Harvard researchers. But think about this. I would say if those Harvard researchers would look at Ellen and say, I'm nowhere near as popular as her. And I don't know Ellen personally, but I think she would probably say, I don't think I could turn hydrogen molecules into metallic hydrogen. I think she would agree to that. And so Even if you're at that top 1% of your own industry or your own thoughts or your own popularity, you still rely on other people to get through a day. There are still other people around you with those that offer talents and gifts that you make use of, even if you're in that top 1%, because you can't do it by yourself. And some people hear that and they're like, well, of course, I can't do that. I was talking to one of my buddies not long ago, and he's like, Casey, all this stuff that you say, it's really cool, but at the end of the day, I just deliver packages. I deliver packages from one place to the other. That's all I do. So I don't get down with all that, thinking about how I work. I was like, bro, are you kidding me? Imagine a world right now. Imagine a world that we live in where nobody delivers packages. Imagine a world where nobody cleans houses or cleans apartments. Or imagine a world where nobody cleans office spaces. It would be incredibly difficult to function in the way that we do right now if we didn't have each of those tasks that are wildly important. So as we have to level one side of the road to make sure the bridge gets across, we also have to fill in the hole on the other side of the road. So we need to make sure that we're not looking at our own gifts and talents and saying, well, I'm not needed, because there is a need for you. I'm pointing. Yes, you. There are needs that only you can meet. There are hands that only you can hold. You think about it, as a teacher, there are students that only you will have the opportunity to educate. As a healthcare professional, there are tears that only you can dry and wounds that only you can heal. As someone who even carries packages or carries loads, there's stress that only you can take off of other people. There is a massive need for all of our work, because it becomes a community that we work together, and it makes a beautiful picture of how we're really interdependent on one another. And I was looking at some research from Brene Brown. Let me show you how she kind of says there's a hill on one side and a hole on the other. Brene Brown did research on shame and fear. And Brene Brown found that shame and fear are those voices in our heads that say, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And the other voice that she says, if you ever get over that, then that next voice says, well, who do you think you are? Do you see the hill and the hole there? First, hey, you're not good enough. You can't do that. And then if you ever do step out and try to do it, the other voice she says is, come on now, who do you think you are? Do you really think you're that good? She says those are the two voices that fuel fear and shame. And what I've noticed that a lot of popular thought revolves around how to battle those two voices that say, first, you're not good enough, and then if you ever get over, well, yes, I am good enough, then you get over that, and then the next voice comes, well, who do you think you are? You really think you're good enough? You see how that works? You've heard those voices before, and I'll give you a little bit of a different, I love her diagnosis, but the treatment, I'm going to give you something a little bit different. The treatment that is a popular treatment is you say, yes, I am good enough. Who do you think you are? I'm somebody. And here's the thing, when there are facts involved in those voices, when those voices have, and I'm stopped, so I'm looking at you. When those voices have some truth to them, if there are facts inside those voices, when the voice says, hey, you're not good enough, and you can't really prove that you are good enough. When the voice says, who do you think you are? And there have been times where you did get a little proud and you're like, you know what, I'm pretty slick. When there's some truth to the voices, it's really hard to fight them sometimes. But I've discovered in our work, there's actually a better path. When we are confronted with who do you think you are, we're confronted with the hills, we're confronted with the holes in our life, then there's a better way to move forward. And I'll tell you, as diverse a crowd as Jesus and rapper Eminem agree with what I'm about to tell you. So listen, if Jesus and rapper Eminem agree on something, we better perk our ears up. I'm kidding, of course. But think about this. Have you ever seen 8 Mile? I want to show you how to deal with the hills or the holes in your life. When you hear I'm not good enough, or you hear a voice saying, who do you think you are? It's the same prescription when we're steering ourselves through the weeds of work. So if you hear that voice, Rapper Eminem, you've heard of 8 Mile. If you hadn't, it's okay. But there's a movie, it's called 8 Mile. And 8 Mile follows young people through a rap battle inner city culture where they go get into a room, a beat drops, there's a beat that comes on, and each rapper, their whole entire point is to shame the other rapper. Really to say you're not good enough, or who do you think you are? And then the crowd reacts, and based on the crowd reaction, you have a winner for the rap battle. And so Eminem is in this rap battle, and he gets to the final rap battle, and Eminem does something that is B Rabbit is his character in the movie, but he does something that's never been done in this movie, in this rap battle culture. And Roger Ebert, who is a movie critic you've heard of, Robert Ebert says the genius of Eminem or B Rabbit in this movie is that he commits rap battle suicide. That's the genius. So he hears the voice, you're not good enough. He hears the voice, who do you think you are? But instead of fighting back and saying I'm somebody, Eminem just dies to himself. He dies to himself. He says, Eminem in his rap, he says all the things that he knows that his opponent is going to say about him. He says all the negative things that could be said about him. He just fesses up. He says them out loud before they can say them about him. And instead of fighting back and saying, yes, I am good enough, who do you think you are? In this rap battle against someone trying to shame him, against the voice that's trying to shame him, he just says, here is who I am, and I'm just going to be okay with that. Is that not incredible? Think about the power in that. And the next time the voice in your head says, hey, you're not good enough, if you say, okay, it's not really about me anyway. My work was never created to meet my own needs first, because I know a met need necessarily precedes any profits or incentives that come back to me. If we go into work with that idea and we hear you're not good enough, we just continue to be productive. We continue to be engaged in our work because we're not doing work so that we feel good about our work and so we know that we're good enough. If we hear, who do you think you are, stepping out there trying to meet those needs, then we just continue to be productive and meet needs, because thinking that we're somebody was never the reason we set out in the first place. We set out to meet a need with our work. Do you see how powerful, incredibly, incredibly powerful this is? One author said it this way: it's a small thing for me to be judged by you or any other human court. And that's really cool and popular. Like, hey, don't judge me. Nobody can tell me who I am. But here's what he went on to say: I don't even judge myself. He said it's a small thing for me to be judged by you or anybody else, but he went one step farther. He said, I don't even judge myself. So what was he doing? He just moved forward trying to meet the needs of the people around him, and that's what we can do with our work. And those voices are literally silenced, just like in the end of that movie when Eminem told all the things about himself. His opponent then, the worst thing that could ever happen to him, the opponent, is that he had nothing to say. In this rap battle, shame and honor culture, the worst thing that can happen is that you freeze at the mic and have nothing to say. And so the voice that tried to shame Eminem literally was silenced. Think about the power in that. And I said Jesus said it in this same way. They had a lot of differences, but the one thing that was similar is both of them said, if you want to find yourself, you lose yourself. Eminem said, lose yourself in the music, in the moment. You own it. So can we do this today? Can we try to say, you know what? If I hear that voice, you're not good enough. If I hear that voice, who do you think you are? You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go ahead and spit out there. I'm not that great. I know that I have issues. I know I can't do it by myself, but I also know there are needs that only I can meet, and so it never was about me in the first place. It was only about the need. I wish you would watch this video 17 times, because I promise it will change everything about the way that you steer yourself through the weeds of work. It will literally change your work forever. Is that convincing? I mean it. And so use that tool, use the confrontation as a tool on yourself, not on other people, not how to win friends and influence people. Use that tool on yourself. And then when you hear those voices of shame, trying to be like that opponent, then the way you can silence that opponent is just to go ahead and lose yourself. Lose yourself so that your work can be about meeting needs of those around you. Thank you for joining me on the hands-free drive to work. You can keep your hands on the wheel and at the very same time learn to lead yourself or steer yourself through the weeds of work. Appreciate you.